Well, I know that DC has gotten a lot of shit this year, but I think one of the best decisions we can say that they made is moving Supergirl to the network it was meant to be on. Hey guys, come over the season premiere of Supergirl, Season 2, Episode 1, The Adventures of Supergirl, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, mainly for a couple of reasons. One, as you guys know, I actually really did enjoy last year's first season, but I thought it was overall a very interesting show, but I really didn't know what we were getting into with this episode, because the fact that they moved it to CW, I was definitely all for that. I don't know why the show was ever on CBS. It should have never been on CBS. It did not fit there. It was completely different than anything on CBS, and CBS really held it back, I think, from really getting the audience and really finding, its groove that it needed to find, and I think one of the best decisions they made, like I said in my intro, was moving into the CW, but in general, because that I didn't really know what we were getting here, because I didn't know if they were maybe going to change things up, if the show was going to be more connected to The Flash, Arrow, and, Legend of Tomorrow. I really didn't know what this was going to be. But I have to say that, honestly, surprisingly, this premiere not only was so confident and so, just so great, this to me was the best premiere I've seen of any of this DC shows so far this year. I loved this premiere. Just such a great, confident start that really shows where the show is headed, and it already seems like they are a lot more aware of what they were doing than they were in Season 1. Season 1, they really were trying to find its groove, and I think now they found its groove. They're realizing what works, and they're really sticking to it. Let's just get into this episode, because there is definitely a lot that happened in this first episode. A lot of not really a ton of exposition, though, honestly. Surprisingly, there really was not a ton of exposition. A lot of this episode is introducing you to things and rolling with it, rather than knowing a ton about that character. We'll find out stuff about that character, but this episode gets you more into what's going on and less into exposition. Very rare that I've seen it in the show, but the show actually did that really well. Let's just get into this episode, because I really do want to talk about it. And I like the way that they started things out, because they said this season they wanted people to be able to go into it without seeing Season 1. If someone didn't see Season 1, they could go into the season, they'd be fine. And I thought it was very smart of them to start right where, last season left off with, Kara having that party with all her friends, and there's that Kryptonian rocket that crashed in the outskirts of National City, and we open up the pod, and we finally see who it is. It's this man in a red turtleneck. We don't know who it is, but that I thought was a great way to start off the episode. Right away, we have this great mystery surrounding this guy, who he is, where he came from. I love the way that was done. Really interesting stuff there. So the next morning, Supergirl and Martian Manhunter fly into the DEO's new headquarters, and I really do like the way the DEO looks now. It just looks a lot better, honestly, and maybe it doesn't look, as big as a budget, but like Kara said, it just looks cooler. It looks, more interesting, and it doesn't look like, any other headquarters, and a large skyscraper is in the middle of the National City. Apparently the DEO has always had this facility. They just didn't use it last season for unknown reasons, mainly because, obviously, they wanted to upgrade things, we can tell. So the man who fell, and I thought that was kind of cool, we found that out, the man who fell to space is actually still unconscious, and he's under monitoring by the DEO. The DEO brings in Winn to analyze the rocket software, because he actually knows Kryptonian now, and Winn already has a much more substantial role this season, which I like, because you guys know how much I love Jeremy Jordan. I think he's a great actor, and I think he did a good job in last season. They just, I don't really think ever utilized his character that great. They definitely did in some episodes, but a lot of the times he was just there to be third wheel for Kara, and I'm glad that he's not there for that this season. It seems like he has a much more substantial role, and I think this is really going to fit him very well. He is the, Cisco of Supergirl, if you will, definitely, and I like that they were giving him that role, because he's very funny, and he nerds out a lot, and they're definitely trying to make him the Cisco of this show, and I definitely like seeing that. And I think it's really working for him very well. I can't wait to see where that's going to go. But on the way out, Alex asks Kara if she's going to watch the launch of the Venture, which is a new passenger rocket ship, but Kara says she's going on her first date with James instead. As we know, they're trying to make things work, and Alex notes that Kara seems overeager about the date, which means she's trying to convince herself that the date is a good idea, which she doesn't really know if it is. And Kara doesn't respond, as she has to run to see Kat, and I really do like Kat. You know, you guys know I really did like Kat last season, but they definitely are headed for a much more intimate relation between these two. What I mean by intimate is that these two seem to be a lot closer and a lot less of just Kat calling Kara out on her shit. It seems like Kat actually is trying to help Kara this season, and I like seeing that. Not that we didn't really see that, but there just a lot of times was Kat insulting Kara, and I like that there's a different relation between these two. She wants to know what Kara wants to do as her new vocation, because as we know, Kat offered Kara whatever job she wanted last season, and Kara hasn't made a decision. Kat gives her 48 hours to decide, and then berates Kara's replacement a bit. This girl that runs up to her. It was very funny to see the way that she's complaining to her about salad, because that is how she treated Kara last season. And yes, she does still call her Kira, but they do definitely have a much more different type of relationship, and I like seeing this. I think it's, again, a really good upgrade for the show. And that's really what this premiere is all about. It's all about upgrading things, you know, characters that have much closer relationships. The cast in general just feels a lot more comfortable in their roles. And Calista Flockhart, I always felt was comfortable in this role, but in general, it just seems like they're a lot happier to be here, and I really love seeing that. And that's mainly because, in general, Calista Flockhart does not have a substantial role this season. You guys know she's a recurring character this season. And that's because Calista Flockhart, as we know, the show moved to Canada. Calista Flockhart does not live in Canada. It's hard for her to commute, and she's only going to be on every so often, which I think is good for a character like Kat Grant. She's a good character, but we don't need her as a main character, and I'm glad to see the way, I think, you know, with her being a recurring character, they're definitely utilizing her very well, and I can't wait to see where they're going to go with her, you know, when they don't need her all the time, and I think that's definitely the right direction to go with her overall. So that evening, we get this great scene where Kara is super speeding her way through several outfits. She kind of reminded me of the Flash, the way she was able to do this, but literally she's going from outfit to outfit, not really figuring out what to wear, and James does show up at the apartment with pizza and pot stickers for their dates, and at James' urging, they put on the Venture launch, but an engine quickly malfunctions, caused the shuttle to fall back into the atmosphere, and obviously that's not good. And then we get to what I know everyone was looking forward to. We go to Metropolis, and we see Clark Kent, yes, Tyler Hoechlin himself. And let me just say that he has this character down to a T. I was worried about Tyler Hoechlin because I didn't think, oh, this guy really strikes me as Superman. But I've always really liked him as an actor, and he absolutely killed it as this role. What I like about this side of Superman is that this is not the dark, you know, brooding, very gruff and selfish Superman that we've been seeing lately. You know, it's not that Henry Cavill Superman. I have no problem with that Superman necessarily. I've never really been one for wanting Superman to go dark, but this is the Superman. This guy, this Superman that we saw tonight, that's Superman to me. That is definitely everything about Superman. Clark Kent, you know, he's nerdy, but he's like, you know, awkwardly, you know, funny nerdy. Like, you really love his character, and they really did a great job of getting us to enjoy Clark Kent overall, and he really seems like he knows his character, and I like that they're having fun with it. You're allowed to have fun with this, and that's something Supergirl acknowledges very well. You're allowed to have fun with these characters, and they did a really good job with that. We see Clark Kent, he's making his big entrance, getting chewed out by Perry White on the phone. Perfect way to start things out, and he then hears a news bulletin about the Ventures in air troubles. Both Superman and Supergirl fly into action, and I love how casual she's just like, oh, hey, cuz. I thought that was really funny. Supergirl arrives first, grabs the nose of the ship. Superman cools off the engine, then grabs the tail, and it's just awesome to see Superman on TV, honestly. So working together, the two heroes bring down the shuttle into a field. They share a really goofy moment together, and I thought that was, I really love the scene where the kids see Superman, and Supergirl, you know, Kara's talking about how she changed his diapers, and that's one of the big recurring jokes of this episode, is that everyone sees Superman as this hero, and she sees him as, you know, the boy that she changed diapers for, and I thought that was very funny overall, and their banter is so fun in this episode, and Melissa Benoist and Tyler Hoechlin already work so well together, and I can't wait to see more of them as the season goes on, because it's so fun to watch already. So Kara brings Clark to the DEO, causing most of the office to immediately start fanboying, and specifically Winn. Winn's freaking out, can't believe that it's actually Clark Kent that he's with, and however, there seems to be a bit of bad blood between John and Superman, and we don't really know what that's all about, but there's definitely something going on between those two. What that is, I don't know, but Alex doesn't know exactly what happened between the pair. We don't either. So Superman checks in on the DEO's mystery guests, and Obviously, we still don't know who that is. So, per Winn's report, they still don't know who he is, but his rocket passed through the Well of Stars, which explains why he hasn't aged. And we also learn that Kryptonians age slower on Earth, which is why Superman doesn't look 12 years older than Supergirl, because he should, obviously. Superman is, in fact, older than, Clark is, in fact, older than Kara, and, that's who he is, but right now, he doesn't really age as much, which I thought was interesting. We found this out. I mean, I knew this, obviously, but I thought it was interesting that we saw that, and I thought, again, it was exposition, but it's not really a ton of exposition. It's not very heavy exposition. It's very quick exposition, and that's something with this episode. It's very fast-paced, and that's one of the reasons why this episode was as good as it was. So, we see John Henshaw, whatever you want to call him, he tells Superman and Supergirl that the venture was possibly sabotage, and he says the DO will handle the investigation, but Superman volunteers to assist, saying that he can ask some questions as Clark Kent, and I thought that was definitely smart of him to do. So Kara takes Clark to Catco, where she's pulled aside by Kat, and it seems the Kat is this major crush on Clark. I like that we found out, actually, that Clark and Lois Lane are dating. I thought it was kind of cute, the way we found that out. Kind of hinted that we are going to see Lois Lane at some point. I mean, we've seen Lana Lang, so I think there's definitely a possibility that, not Lana, who was Jenna Dewan Tatum's character? I can't think of her name right now, but, she was in, last season. I can't think of her name right now, but we know that she, of course, was, Lois's sister, so I do like hearing that Lois and Clark are dating. I think that's going to be interesting to see what's going on there, and just a little fun nod to Wonder Woman. I know we're not going to get Wonder Woman on TV, but there's definitely that hint that maybe it could happen down the line. We'll have to see. Definitely that could be fun if they do that, but basically, Kat is completely starstruck. I mean, she has a huge crush on Superman, asking him, what the relationship is like. I thought it was very funny overall. She quickly takes him on a private tour of the building, and Kara and James have this talk where, Kara talks about she's sorry she blew James off, and they also talk about how Kat doesn't act this way with anyone except Clark, so I thought that was really funny. But Alex then calls she calls Kara to tell her that her has a seat on the venture but canceled at the last minute, so thus making her a suspect for the supposed sabotage. Obviously, there was sabotage. They think that she could have been the one that do it, and we actually find out very quickly that it was actually John Corben who sabotaged the ship, acting under orders from a Luthor. We don't know which one. I don't think it's Lex Luthor. I don't think they're going to go that far. Pump the brakes a little bit. I don't think we're going to get every Superman character this season now, but definitely he's working for a Luthor, we know that. And I like the way that they introduced that here. One of the biggest problems Supergirl had last season was its villains. They were very hollow, they were very cartoony, and they lasted one episode. And it already seems like Corben in general is a much different type of villain, and I really do like that. So he purchases a high-tech drone. He tells his employer that he's moving to Plan B, and we don't know what that means. What's Plan B? I don't know, but Clark and Kara then visit Lena Luthor, who says that she canceled her venture flight because she's planning to rename LexCorp and had to make some last-minute plans for the rebranding ceremony. So she wants to turn around LexCorp, make it more as a positive thing, and we definitely do see Lena's not a bad person. I like seeing that. I like seeing that Lena in general is someone that we can trust, at least we think right now. And she gives Clark a flash drive containing information on the part that exploded and asks Clark to give her a second chance, and obviously Clark really does not trust Lena right now because, of Lex and everything, so I think this is interesting too. I'm interested in seeing where this storyline is going to go. I mean, clearly there's some sort of animosity between these two, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way they patch things up there. Hopefully they patch things up. We'll have to see. So after they leave Lena's office, Kara asks Clark how Clark juggles being Clark Kent and Superman because, one of the biggest problems she had last season was really balancing between being Kara and being Supergirl. And she doesn't really know how he pulls it off so effortlessly. I mean, look at Clark. It seems like he has everything figured out. It seems like he is a star, and he has this, he is an expert compared to her. And yes, he's been doing it much longer than her, and we definitely know this. I mean, the second that, her pod, we hear every episode that when her pod crashed, he was already Superman, things like that. But Clark tells her that being Kara is just as important as being Supergirl and gives her a hug. And I like this. I like the way these two are depending on each other. I was a little bit worried this was going to be too Superman-centric, but no, he's really there for her benefits. And I like that. Superman right now is a sidekick to Supergirl. It's weird to think, but that's really what this is. He is, in fact, a sidekick, and I like that. I like seeing that she actually has a sidekick, and I like the way that he's helping helping her out. He's really acting like a cousin. These two have this great bond, and it's just this really fun dynamic that we didn't really have last season, and it really adds this fun side of the show that I don't really think we've had before, and I really did like seeing. So Alex gets John to tell her about Project Emerald, which is the source of John's issues with Clark. And we find out right away what's going on here, which I thought was interesting when we found this out. Back when Superman was friendly with the DEO, he and John discovered the first batch of kryptonite together. Superman wanted the kryptonite destroyed, but John kept it to use against other Kryptonians. Because obviously, we know how sensitive and allergic Superman is to kryptonite. We know that Kara reacts the same way. But Winn walks in the office to point out that the explosion of the Venture was trying to kill one person, and that being Lena Luthor. She was the one that was meant to be killed. We don't know for what reason. I don't think it's Lex, because why the fuck would Lex kill his sister? I don't really know why, but I think that was interesting when we found this out. Obviously this person's after Lena Luthor. And we know, of course, that one person was John Corben. We now know that now, but, and us knowing that definitely adds a lot of weight to this, because now I'm like, okay, I want to know more about John Corben. So at the moment, Lena hops into a helicopter, is immediately targeted by Corben's drones. So we see Superman and Supergirl, they block the drones from shooting Lena, but Corben says he sent out drones after other civilians too. Superman goes after the other drones, while Supergirl stays behind to protect Lena. And that evening, James confronts Kara at Catco about seemingly blowing their date off. Kara admits she doesn't know if she still wants to be with James anymore because it's just really complicated. I mean, she thought this would work out, but clearly it's not really working out for her anymore. We definitely see. Kat gives her a bit of a pep talk, and I actually really like this scene where Kat tells her to step out of her comfort zone and maybe take a dive. I mean, Kara, not when she's Supergirl, when she's Kara, though, she's very restrained, and she's very passive, and she doesn't really seem to really take a lot of action. And I like seeing that Kat's telling her to ignite that fire, and really make her own decisions, and, get this more, not evil side, that's not what I'm trying to say, but this more threatening side of herself. Get in touch with that side, get a little bit rebellious, and I like seeing that overall. Again, I like seeing the Cat's more of a mentor to her this season, and I really did like that overall. Really good scene there, and again, Calista Flockhart really just does such a great job when she's giving speeches. So the next morning, the DEO links the drones to Corben. They guess that he'll go after Lena at her company's renaming ceremony. So John tries to talk to Superman, but he says that he can't work with the DEO as long as he has kryptonite on site. And again, this is a very interesting conflict. The fact that he wants to use kryptonite, but obviously Clark is so against it. This is something that could end up really bad. He could end up getting, horribly, horribly sick, and he could possibly die from it. And really, I think this is going to be a very interesting conflict to see what's going on here. Why does John want this kryptonite so bad? We don't really know. I mean, he kept it to use it against other Kryptonians, but the question is, is this really going to work out? I could really see this going badly, but I do really like this conflict overall, and again, it's just adding this really fun, not fun dynamic, really interesting dynamic that we didn't have last season, and again, I really do like that. So, I thought that was definitely interesting to see. So bombs are then going off this ceremony. It's causing all sorts of chaos, and one of the bombs takes a retaining wall, which somehow caused the entire LexCorp headquarters to start to collapse. Supergirl managed to cobble together a fix while Alex fights Corben. Pretty badass fight, let me just say. She was really, the full-on, fight on, hand-to-hand combat. I love that. Corben managed to get the upper hand on Alex, but Lena then shoots him from behind, and later that day, so Corben is actually shot. We don't know if he's dead, but that's the way that ended there. So later that day, Lena thanks Clark for writing a positive story about her new company, asks Kara where her story on the attack is, and basically that she should write a story about it because she sees that Kara is very interested, and obviously Clark was writing the story. Why was Kara there? And if I remember correctly, Kara was there because she said she was his assistant or something. I don't really remember, but this inspires Kara to tell Kat that she actually wants to be a reporter, and Kat pulls out Kara's resume and shows that she scribbled reporter down on it and says she knows that she's, because she knew that Kara had the instincts and makings of a great reporter. She can tell a great story. She has this positive outlook, and Kara says the Kat is a way of inspiring people and getting them to make that dive, which seems to inspire Kat into making plans of her own. So I don't really know where this is going, but I like the way they're helping out each other, and I really do like seeing overall interesting stuff there, and I can't wait to see where this is going to go. So Kara finally gets a chat with James, admits that she's still trying to figure out how to be Kara, because again, she just doesn't really know how to separate the two. And I mean, it's a genuine problem. I understand what she's going through. She then tells James that they would work best as friends, and I agree with that. I think definitely don't rush this relationship. I'm glad she said they need to end this relationship before it starts. And I haven't really seen many CW shows do that. I mean, Iris and Barry, they just randomly started to get together. Felicity and Oliver got together. I mean, they were friends for a while, but they got together. I like that they've actually decided that, no, we work better as friends. I mean, it gets us away from that ridiculous love triangle we had last season that I could not stand. You guys know, one of my least favorite parts last season was the love triangle between, Winn, James and Kara. I don't think it was a bad love triangle by any means. It just really detracted the show, and I felt like it really did not need to be there. So I'm glad to see that they decided to be friends, and I'm hoping that this just lets, this doesn't give Kara really a romantic interest. I think Kara's best when she doesn't really have a romantic interest, and John then officially actually hires Winn at the DEO, while Superman says that he wants to go around National City and spend more time with Kara, and it definitely seems like those two, they're going to have to bury the hatchet. We'll have to see where that's going to go, but I thought that was definitely really great to see, and I'm glad to see that we are going to get more Superman in the show. But then we get to the end of the episode, which this was very interesting. We see the episode ends with Corben. He's waking up in an underground facility at Cadmus, and a woman says he gets to choose whether to live or die. Corben says he wants to live, and the woman pushes a button, and that starts Corben's transformation into Metallo. I don't know who that is, but that is the way the episode ends. Really great stuff overall. Let's just get into this episode because I really do want to talk about where I think this season is headed. So really, like I said, this premiere really impressed me overall. There were a lot of things in here that I was very surprised about. First of all, the lack of exposition. I mean, we really found out everything we needed to. There's not a lot of questions going into episode 2, except for where they're really headed with Corben. Now, let me just say right off the bat, you guys know this, I don't know shit when it comes to comics. I don't read the comics. I'm not, really an avid reader of comics. I watch the TV shows. I watch the movies. That's about it. I don't know who the fuck Metallo is. I don't know what Metallo does. And I don't know why Corben is transforming into Metallo and what this is really going to do to him. But I can tell you that I'm really liking Corben as a villain, and I like that they are sticking to this character. Because again, I think a problem with Supergirl last season that they did not stick to the main villain. They had the villain of Astra, then they ended up killing off Astra way too early in the first half of the season. They tried to redeem her. Then they made Non the villain, and it just didn't work. And it already seems like this season they are actually establishing a legit villain, and I like seeing that. But what I like even more is this dynamic of Superman. I really am loving what we're seeing of Superman so far, Clark, whatever you want to call him. There's definitely a lot of animosity between Clark and John, obviously because they have very different views when it comes to the use of kryptonite. John wants to use it, Clark doesn't want to use it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they really end up with this, because, we can see that Clark, he has a genuine reason for using it, but John's reason in general, you can really understand. I mean, he feels that it's best to use it on other Kryptonians, because if you use it on other Kryptonians, it hurts them just as much as Clark. But Clark, if he's exposed to it, I mean, this could end up really bad for him, so I don't really know where that's going to go. We'll have to see. I think that's going to be very interesting, and the dynamic of these two overall, I really do love seeing Superman and Supergirl work together, because they really are going through a very similar situation, and I'm hoping that we see more of what's going on with that. Who is the Luthor that Corben is working for? We still don't really know. That's going to be interesting. We know it's not Lex, but I do like that we can trust Lena Luthor. I think we are going to see more of her in this season, and I like that. I like that we saw that Clark has kind of forgiven her. Obviously, he's not completely forgiven her, but I do like where that's headed overall, so I think that's definitely going to be interesting where that goes. I like that Kara and James decided to be friends. Like I said, I think it just creates less drama. We don't need that love triangle in there, and I'm happy that that's not there. Kat and Kara, I really like where this is going. I like that Kat is, like I said, she's serving as more of a mentor to Kara, and less as just someone to talk shit to Kara. I think it's definitely a better role for her, and I like their dynamic overall. And again, Kat's not on the season a ton, so we'll have to see where she's going, because I think that's going to be interesting where she's going to go. No Lord in this episode. I thought Lord would be here, but no Maxwell Lord. Kind of weird that he wasn't in this episode, because we know we had that big thing last season, but he wasn't here. I don't know if he's coming back, but we'll have to see. I don't know if they're just gonna abandon that. If they do, fine. I don't really care that much. I never really cared that much for Max Malloy as a character. But we'll have to see where that's going to go. I don't really know. What it really seems like they're doing this season is they're taking all the best things about Season 1 and they're expanding upon it. You know, Winn's, like I said, witty and nerdy self, they're expanding upon that by making him now part of the DEO. And that's going to be a lot of fun to see because as much as I do like Alex and John, I mean, they're very serious people. Winn's not a very serious person. You know, he's a lot of fun to be around, and I think he's really going to add a fun dynamic there that we didn't really see when he was at Catco, and I'm looking forward to seeing the way he works there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Or, you know, say Superman, they didn't have that element of him in the season. And in general, now they're on the CW, they can do a lot more things when it comes to superheroes. They can put a lot more in there. You know, this show CW is not exactly procedural. CBS is procedural, and I think that really did hurt Supergirl. And I like that they're not really going in a procedural direction. I really do like that overall. I really did love, what we saw of this so far. And overall, guys, I really enjoyed this premiere. I think this is totally the direction for the show. Really surprised me because, like I said, I really didn't know where we were headed going into this. I didn't know how this really was going to be. But honestly, if they keep this up, if, you know, the episodes turn out to be as good as this premiere, this could be better than everything in Season 1. I mean, Season 1 was great, and the stuff that was in Season 1 was genuinely great. But it definitely is not what this seems like it's going to be. This seems so much more confident. This seems so much more self-aware and just so much more fun. And that's the thing I love. Supergirl can be a fun show. It seems like they're really embracing that fun, that cheesiness. And I like that they made Clark Kent in general a nerd. I think it actually works really well for him. It makes him a lot of fun to watch. And they're definitely trying to make him less of the Henry Cavill and more of the one from the TV series. I can't think of his name right now, but they're definitely trying to make him like that. I'm probably an idiot for not remembering his name, but I can't think of his name right now. But they're definitely trying to do that. Are we ever going to see Lois Lane? I don't know. I mean, we know these two are together, and I did like hearing the name Lois Lane, at least, and I like hearing the name Perry White. It definitely kind of makes me think we are going to see him at some point, but we'll have to see. I hope they keep him on for a couple episodes, or at least, you know, a lot of the season, because I really do like the dynamic overall. I don't want Superman to leave. I heard he's only on for 2 episodes. I hope that's not the case. I wish he was a main character, but we'll have to see where he's going to go. And then, who is this mysterious man in the pod? We don't really know who he is. You know, who is this red turtleneck? What's the deal with him? Are we going to find out more about him? You know, what's really going on there? We don't really know, and I'm looking forward to that overall. Overall, guys, I really love this premiere. I can't wait to see where this season is headed. This, to me, this is exactly how you do a great season premiere, establishing, you know, really where the show is going. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I really love this premiere overall, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Luke Cage. I don't know if I'm going to continue reviewing Timeless as a individual show. I'll watch the next episode, and if there's not a ton to talk about, then I'll just review it as a season. I don't really know, but I will see you guys for either one of those. Okay, bye.